All right, well, Central Texas, again, we have now reached the end of 6 News at 6, of course. That ended about 10 minutes ago, but we're going to keep this weather coverage going because we do have a couple of severe thunderstorms across the area that we do need to talk about. We need to kind of track here and see where they're headed. Now, the good news is one of those 2 storms, this one down near Burnett, that one has significantly weakened over the last, say, half hour or so. And in fact, they've allowed the severe thunderstorm warning that was on it to be canceled and expire. This one here, though, along the boundary there just to the west of Lomita there in parts of Lampasas County, that one is holding on to its strength. It's kind of riding right along that cold front boundary, and as long as it does that, it'll be near a source of lift, so we can continue to see that be on the stronger side for a little while here. So let's take a look again. So the further and further this Burnett storm gets away from that boundary and away from that source of lift, the more we've seen it kind of fall apart a little bit. There is another storm developing behind it there in parts of Llano County, but again, that one's still pretty weak. Could strengthen, though, as it continues to move off to the east. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. But for right now, the storm of note, again, is going to be just to the north of Lomita there, to the southwest of Adamsville, and this whole complex kind of moving off to the northeast. So if you're in Adamsville, expect a little bit of pocket change size hail, some heavy rain. Not expecting the hardest part of that hail core to move through Adamsville. It should stay off to the west. But again, maybe some pocket change size hail, maybe some very heavy rain there if you're in Adamsville. So keep that in mind. For Lomita, again, the heaviest part of the storm has passed your area, so that is good news, but a little bit of continued rain for the next several minutes is possible. So let's go ahead and take a look inside the storm as we do, and we'll see what's going on. And again, some pretty large hail being indicated by our radar here in the middle of the storm. 1.6, anything larger than that. So 1.6, so between ping pong ball and golf ball sized hail within the storm. So between that 1.5 to 1.75 range there between ping pong and golf ball. So that's what we're looking at inside this storm, again, just to the north of Lomita. Continuing to move off to the northeast. Like I said, it'll skirt Adamsville, move towards 281. So keep that in mind if you have to be on 281. Very large hail core moving to the north of Adamsville over the next several minutes there along Highway 281, so keep that in mind. In terms of where it's going and when we expect it to get there, let's go ahead and put a track on this storm, and we'll take a look. Again, the severe thunderstorm warning itself in effect until about 7:15, so another half hour here. Let's see. Let's get an idea of how fast this storm is traveling, and it is traveling at about 35 miles per hour, so it's moving. And again, that's the good news. Remember, we've had a couple of days so far this spring where we had storms that really just didn't move, and they pounded areas with large hail for, unfortunately, a very long time on end. These storms, at least, are moving at about 35 miles per hour. So as we track that hail core, we can expect, and if you're in Evant, expect this storm to be heading your direction. So with that in mind, if you're in Evant, again, very large hail within the storm. Not seeing anything tornadic with it, not seeing any of that rotation, but very large hail, gusty winds, definitely a possibility within the storm. And as it moves to the northeast at 35 miles per hour, we can expect it in Evant, and that is the only town that is showing up on our tracker. Obviously, if you're in the more rural parts of Lampasas County, northern Lampasas County, southern Hamilton County, and western Coryell County, again, if you have interests in this area along Highway 281, this storm is moving that direction. But again, the only town showing up in our tracker, Evant, there by about 7:09. So that's towards the end of the severe thunderstorm warning, so we'll have to keep an eye on it for a little while longer. Could see this extended, just depends on if the storm holds together. And there's a very good chance the storm does hold together as it continues to kind of ride that cold front boundary over the next several minutes to the next hour or so. So that is storm watching. I see a new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued. This could just be the remnants of a previous storm. I'm not seeing anything that would, maybe it's just the remnants of a previous warning. Let me double check here. Yeah, that's so that is the same storm system that we were just tracking. That is just a remnant of the original warning that is set to expire here in about 1 minute. So that is not a storm itself. That is just an old warning that has yet to expire. All right, so that's good news. All right, so again, that is really the one storm across central Texas right now that is causing any issue. Again, we have a couple of severe storms up in the DFW Metroplex, moving across parts of Johnson County there towards Ellis County, southern Tarrant County. Now we have a storm moving right towards downtown Dallas there. Not severe warm, but probably pretty strong there as well. And again, these two storms, the one moving over Burnett right now is moving off to the east towards Williamson County, and new development just behind that. We'll have to keep an eye on that in case that strengthens as well. But again, for us, the storm right now that we are concerned with is the one in Lampasas County. I can tell you just by watching some of these radar scans moving through, it looks like it is a rotating thunderstorm, so that'd be a supercell. Again, not necessarily tornadic, but enough to hold it together and help it maintain its strength. Here, let's take a look at the winds, because that was another issue that we were potentially watching for today, was the possibility of strong winds. And this is going to be just on the edge of our radar beam, but we can take a look here, potentially storm winds of 50 to 60 miles per hour. So again, that's about what we expect with a severe thunderstorm. Hail over 1 inch and winds 57, 58 miles an hour or greater. So again, with that in mind, could see some gusty winds coming out of the storm as well. And again, that's enough to move you around. So if you're on Highway 84, that storm kind of moving that direction as well. So between 84 and 183, that's where the storm is right now, and again just on the edge of Mills County, moving towards Hamilton County. So we're keeping an eye on that storm. That one, the only really major storm that we have right now. And the deeper we get into the night, we'll continue to have that threat for severe weather, but we're not seeing any more development along the boundary itself, which is good news. But again, we'll have to track this storm and any other storms that develop that could move off to the east, northeast as well through the rest of the evening. So we're keeping an eye on it, but we'll let this go ahead and run for a little while, and then we'll come back with another update right around the top of the hour. All right, just around the top of the hour here on this Friday evening. I want to say happy Friday to everybody and happy weekend to everybody as we get that weekend started here. We are unfortunately getting it started a little bit stormy for some areas out in Lampasas County right now, and you can see that storm we've been tracking all night. In this latest scan, you just saw it weaken a little bit, so that's good news there, but still seeing a pretty healthy hail core on this storm. Severe thunderstorm warning still in effect until 7:15. You can see the storm moving off to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour. Again, the folks in the way of this event by about 7:10, 7:15 or so. Aleman by 7:35. And if you live in that town, let me know. Shoot me an email. Let me know if I'm pronouncing the name right, of course. I always want to make sure I get them all right. But looking at reading it the Latin way would be Aleman, of course. And then off towards White Way by about 7:40. So this storm moving off to the east-northeast, about 35 miles per hour. So it's moving decently. That's good news. The bad news is, like I said, last check, it did have a pretty healthy hail core on it still. Let's take a look. And yeah, it is still there. And again, the good news for Adamsville is this storm has basically kind of skirted the area. So if you're in Adamsville, maybe some pocket change, pea-sized hail in that area. But this hail core does continue to move off towards 281 and off towards Evant. So if you're in Evant, don't think we're going to get quite as lucky. Maybe some larger hail there if this storm holds together. And if the last scans have shown us anything, it is that it is kind of losing some of its strength a little bit. So that's good news. But still in the strongest part of the storm, still seeing that 1.6 reading. So we're still seeing hail potentially between ping pong ball and golf ball sized in diameter. So very large hail potentially within the storm. And again, this is all radar indicated. No spotters telling us that we're seeing ping pong ball sized hail, but you know, it could likely be as large as quarters out there at least as this storm continues moving. You just saw in that last scan. Let me just take a closer look here. No, still seeing a little bit of that purple in there, but it does seem like it's trying to come down just a little bit. So that is good as well. But again, the storm moving off to the northeast about 35 miles per hour. So if you're in Evant, just remember, got some large hail potentially moving your way. Not seeing any tornadic rotation within this storm, but one thing we are seeing are some gusty winds. Last check, we were seeing gusty winds within the storm. And again, the winds will get to you before the storm does. So if you're in Evant, if you're along Highway 84, again, that's where some of those strongest winds are reading right now on our radar. And again, this is all radar indicated, so of course take it with a grain of salt, but along Highway 84, winds potentially as high as 55 miles per hour right now, moving towards 84. So keep that in mind. These winds are very strong coming out of the storm as well. And you can expect that on a really hot day like today, a really hot and humid day with these storms as they develop. Large hail, definitely a possibility, but the hotter it is outside, we actually increase that wind threat as well, especially when it's significantly hotter at the surface than it is up in the atmosphere. So that's what's going on with that storm. Let's check the rest of central Texas right now. Again, still have a couple of storms down in Llano County, and you can see the original storm we were tracking. That's the one you can see just to the east of Burnett right now. That one has fallen apart rather rapidly, but the storms closer to the cold front that we've been talking about, those are starting to balloon up a little bit, and we're starting to see those grow in intensity as well and kind of move towards that Burnett County line as well. Again, kind of moving off to the east, northeast right now, so these storms could move towards Lampasas County and eventually potentially into Bell County as well, assuming they maintain their same course. Again, we've seen storms kind of take that more easterly jog, so we'll keep an eye on it to see if they maintain direction. But if they do kind of maintain their current course, they would track towards I-14 there in Bell County and also Lampasas and Coryell counties as well. So worth keeping an eye on those storms as well right now as we continue to see this storm fall apart. That storm has already fallen apart. Hopefully this storm continues on its weakening trend as it moves towards Evant and then eventually up into the rest of Hamilton County there. So that's worth keeping an eye on, as are these storms down here. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at them right now. Just because these are kind of the new kids on the block, so to speak, right at this moment. So as we take a look inside these storms, again, winds looking very gusty out there in central parts of Llano County there, probably 50 to 55 miles per hour there. And then as far as the hail situation, not a lot there. Just north of 29, maybe some pea to dime sized hail there, maybe as large as nickels, but that's about it. And that's moving off towards the Colorado River and then eventually into Burnett County as well. So we'll keep an eye on that. Not severe at the moment, but worth watching as it does intensify over the last several scans. So we'll keep that going. We'll continue to keep an eye on all of our weather as we head through the rest of the evening. Again, we do have the risk that we could see these storms last through about the 10 o'clock hour, so we'll stay with you, and then obviously we'll have 6 News at 10 coming up a little bit later as well. So stay with us here on this live stream, and we will be sure to keep you updated for the rest of the night. All right, thanks for staying with us on our live stream this evening. Still have some storms across the area. In fact, a couple of new storms that we need to talk about. Of course, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about that storm been tracking for about the last couple of hours here, and that's the one that is now moving into Hamilton County through Evant, still producing some fairly large hail. I saw some pictures earlier of some quarter-sized hail, larger than that, maybe ping pong ball-sized hail falling with this storm south of Evant. So as it now moves through Evant and into Hamilton County, if you're in Hamilton, this one likely going to miss you off to the east. Now you might catch some rain, you might catch some of that pocket change sized hail, but it looks like the strongest part of the storm should track to the east. Now the hail core not looking quite as impressive at this time. As we take a look at our winds, again, still seeing some very strong winds in the core of this storm here. You can see potentially 50, maybe 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. That's likely the reason for the extension of the severe warning. As we're looking at this again, that's with the wind, the hail. Again, still kind of near Evant, but at this point, 6/10 of an inch. So smaller than a nickel, a little bit larger than a dime. So that's kind of where the hail is right now as it moves just north of Evant and north of Highway 84. The new storms that we're looking at, those are going to be back in Llano County, moving into Burnett County. As I put these in motion, you can see moving generally off to the east-northeast. So I've answered a couple of the questions about Bell County so far. If something was going to impact us in Bell County, I'd be looking at this complex of storms given their general direction of travel right now. Now here's the thing. We saw one storm move out of this area and in towards Burnett County and then off towards Williamson County, and it really fell apart as it did so. So that's what we're kind of watching right now. As these storms track further and further away from that frontal boundary, are they going to be able to maintain? Now, we have the ingredients in place. There's no doubt. It's still warm out there. It's still humid. But again, what is that cap situation looking like? Are these storms going to be able to sustain? And we have seen the storm moving through Lampasas County sustain, but again, it's kind of tracking near and close to that boundary. As these storms try to get away from the boundary, what happens then? That's the question to answer. Right now, we do see them intensifying as they move towards the Burnett County line. How strong are we looking at right now? Well, in terms of hail, if you're near Bluffton there along the Colorado River, that's where we're seeing some of the largest hail. And right now, I'd be looking at about 1-inch hail, quarter-sized hail within this storm complex right now. As far as the winds are concerned, again, maybe not necessarily as impressive as the storm to the north, but near Bluffton, maybe 50 miles an hour, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts with this storm as it continues to travel along as well. As we put a track on this storm, it's basically moving east. Let's go ahead and get a good speed for it. And that is going to be about 30 miles per hour. So as we put a tracker on this, it's going to be off to the east, northeast at 30. So let's see, where would that put it? We're just going to grab the whole leading edge of this storm and track it just a little bit off to the northeast, primarily east though. And so we'd be looking at Lake Victor by about 7:40, Kingsland by 7:43, Gandy 8:01, Briggs 8:11, Bertram 8:22, Youngsport by 8:35, Florence 8:38, and then moving towards Salado by about 9 o'clock. So again, the question is for the folks in Salado, for Florence, for Youngsport, will this storm be able to hold together that long? Because at this point we're talking roughly an hour and 40, roughly almost an hour and 45 minutes from now. So that could be a little bit of an issue in terms of this storm holding together. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But for right now, again, 1-inch hail falling right near the Colorado River there, where it forms the border between Llano and Burnett counties. Again, Lake Victor, already starting to see some rain. All this is moving towards you. Kingsland, Buchanan, Gandy, all these areas in the path of this storm. So gusty winds and that 1-inch hail a possibility over the next little while. As far as, again, the fuel, we always talk about the fuel, right? Well, you got to have some heat. We're in the mid and upper 80s right now. Some areas still in the 90s across the area. I'm looking at Gatesville. And so with that, plenty of warmth, plenty of humidity. So the question is, will these storms hold together? And our forecast model is, again, showing some very light activity. I'm trying to get a grasp on whether or not this is the correct model that I wanted to show you, because it was showing some slightly more impressive activity a little bit earlier. But overall, just know that there are storms that are potential to impact our area over the next several hours as we head towards 11 o'clock and even potentially as late as midnight. So keep in mind that we'll have that there, the severe thunderstorm watch in effect for all of central Texas until midnight. And so we'll keep an eye on it for you as long as these storms continue to persist. While we're talking, though, let's go ahead and talk about your Saturday, because again, another chance for storms will materialize around 3, 4 o'clock. This one could have a little bit better coverage than what we're seeing tonight. Like for tonight, we're seeing just a couple of storms. Maybe a few more people see the rain and the thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. If that coverage increases, that could theoretically bring down some of the severe threat. Still looking at a wind and hail threat, though, with that. And then for Sunday, I think most everything's going to stay to the north, stay to the west. We might catch a stray shower or two, especially as we get later into the evening. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But for the most part, tonight and Saturday, those are the best days to see the potential for severe storms. In fact, a slight risk for your Saturday. That's at level 2 out of 5 that we always talk about. Then as we get through the next 7 days, we'll get a break, but we'll have to get through Monday and Tuesday first. Monday and Tuesday will bring a renewed chance for those thunderstorms, potentially some strong storms as well. Then after that, we'll start to get some drier air in place as a cold front comes through, more reasonable temps for this time of year. And again, that dry weather lasting Wednesday through Friday. So stay with us. We'll continue our live stream. We'll continue to give you updates here every few minutes. But for now, we'll go back to radar and we'll let that run just a little bit. All right, thanks again for hanging out with me on our live stream on this Friday evening, as we do have some severe thunderstorms across central Texas. Multiple thunderstorms right now across the area. Now we have one that we've been tracking for a while that is moving through parts of Coryell and Hamilton counties. We have this relatively new-ish complex down here in Llano and Burnett counties, and we also have a storm moving out of DFW that has taken a little bit of a right turn, is now kind of jogging down I-45 through Ellis County. It could impact the very far northern parts of Navarro County here over the next several minutes. All right, so let's start with our storm up in Hamilton County. This storm still producing some pretty large hail, holding together pretty good over the last basically hour and a half or so. And right now you can see within that storm just to the east of Hamilton, kind of east-southeast there, basically between Hamilton and Turnersville. That's where we're seeing the largest hail. Again, probably about 1.25 inches, so we'll call it quarter to half dollar sized hail within this storm. And you can kind of see what direction that hail core is moving as we put this in motion. It's basically moving northeast. So if you're in Cranfill's Gap there in Bosque County along Highway 22 and then up towards Meridian, Clifton, those are the areas that this storm is going to start traveling towards next. And again, it's only moving at about 35 miles per hour, so give it probably another hour or so and it'll move through parts of Clifton, Meridian. We'll be looking at that area. Cranfill's Gap, though, over the next probably half hour, 15 minutes to the next half hour or so. Again, moving at about 35 miles per hour. That is that particular storm, and again moving off to the northeast. The one that's down further to the south, it sparked off along the again that cold front boundary that we still have, and you can kind of see it on our wind field right here. And again, you see the west winds, you see the east winds kind of coming together. That's where that cold front is right now, and that's where all these storms are originating from. Kind of moving off to the northeast a little bit, not really moving a whole lot in terms of east to west, moving fairly north here over the last several scans, and so we're continuing to watch this one as it moves east-northeast. Did have a pretty impressive hail core down near Kingsland in Llano County. Let's take a look there and see what the latest scans are showing us in terms of the hail core on this storm. Again, this is going to be the strongest part of the storm right here, near Kingsland, just to the southeast of Llano. Again, up to about that inch and a quarter. So again, quarter to half dollar sized hail there in that storm. The other parts of the storm, though, are producing hail, and you can see up near Buchanan Dam there, probably up to about nickel sized hail moving into Burnett County right now up towards Lake Victor. And again, as we put this in motion, this should give us a better idea of the forward direction of these storms as we look solely at the hail core. So again, this southern part of the storm basically moving due east right now towards Kingsland, towards the Buchanan Dam. And again, that other hail core also basically moving off to the east. So we're watching the storm kind of move east, but also expand a little bit north. So it gives it that little bit of a northeast look. And so we're going to have to continue to watch that, because as it expands off to the north, could impact parts of Bell County as well over the next several minutes here. So if you're in if you're in western Bell County, so I'm looking at basically Copperas Cove there on the Bell County, Coryell County line, looking at Killeen, could it be impacted by some rain here over the next, call it half hour, next 45 minutes, if this storm continues to build back to the north. But right now moving basically east, so we're watching it and could possibly impact the southern parts there of Bell County as well. So again, with these storms, sometimes they can change direction, shift on us a little bit, so it's hard to really say here in an hour and a half where it's going to be with a whole lot of certainty, but just understand moving off to the east, northeast at this time. So those are the two storms that we're dealing with. We'll continue to watch them for the rest of the night. For right now, we're going to let this run though, and we'll continue to track these again as they continue to move across the area. All right, thanks again, Central Texas, for hanging out on our live stream here on this Friday evening. Still tracking storms across Central Texas. And as a matter of fact, got some extensions to talk about in these severe thunderstorm warnings. They are holding together at this time. And in fact, the storm that's in Burnett County has been pretty impressive. Last check, I was seeing radar indications of potentially almost 2.5-inch hail, which, by the way, 2.5-inch hail, that would be tennis ball sized hail if it got that large. Wasn't quite there, but getting close. So very large hail. That is south of Burnett itself. So south of the town of Burnett, south of Highway 29 there, down near Seduth, again close to the county line there. But take a look here as we look inside this storm. Anywhere you see these red colors, that's going to be monstrous hail. And in fact, this is showing 2.7, so now larger than tennis ball, almost baseball-sized hail being indicated by our radar. Now, again, this is radar indicated. We don't have any spotter proof of that, but understand that this is a pretty good indication of how large that hail is. So we could be talking tennis ball-sized hail with that storm south of Burnett right now. Another second hail core there just around Burnett, but that again is going to be inch to inch and a quarter sized hail, not anything like what they're seeing just to the south there. So obviously the stronger hail core there to the south. Because of all of this, we have seen that severe thunderstorm warning extended, but notice they are not warning the northern parts of the storm. That is going to be just primarily rain, maybe some heavy rain up near Lake Victor there, but the hail staying down here in the southern quadrant of this storm. So again, this still moving off to the east, moving into Williamson County now. So if you're in Williamson County, that's where this storm is headed next, and as a matter of fact, this hail core could come very close to Georgetown there over the next, let's say, hour to an hour and a half there. Again, only moving at about 35 miles per hour, 30, 35, so we're not seeing these storms moving at highway speeds by any stretch of the imagination. So that's why when we look at, say, Burnett to Georgetown, we're still talking an hour to an hour and a half travel time for this storm. Again, about 30 miles an hour. As far as the wind situation, these storms have also shown a history of kicking out some pretty strong outflow winds. Let's go ahead and see if that's still the case here. And as we look inside the storm, again, some pretty broad, maybe mid-level rotation here. So this is nothing tornadic that we'd be talking about, but it is enough. Once you get these storms kind of rotating, these supercell thunderstorms, as they do that, they can continue to absorb some of that warmer air around them, and that's what kind of helps them sustain a little bit. So again, maybe some broad rotation there that's helping to hold this storm together. But the wind speeds coming out of the storm, right around Highway 29, 50 to 60 miles per hour possible. So again, very large hail and winds in excess of about 50 miles per hour. That's what we're seeing with this storm. When I say very large hail, I mean over 2 inches, as we just showed you. The other storm we've been tracking, and this one's held together for a very long time now. Remember, this storm has been going all the way since when it was back in Llano County. So it's traveled all the way from Llano County up through San Saba, up through Lampasas, kind of skirted through Coryell County, Hamilton County, now into Bosque County, moving towards Hill County, and then eventually into Johnson County as well. That storm still showing a pretty impressive hail core there, right around Meridian. So this storm, again, just right in Meridian right now, in the hail within this storm is, last check, it was about quarter size in diameter, and that's still right about there, still right at about quarter size in diameter, maybe an inch, inch and a quarter there with this particular hail core. Let's take a look. Yeah, about an inch and a quarter. So again, $half sized hail with this storm as it's moving just, and the largest hail moving just to the west of Meridian. If you're in Meridian, probably seeing pea, dime, nickel sized hail, but you're not seeing that $half sized hail. That's going to be on the west side of town there, moving towards Highway 6 right now. So that's where that is. So again, a couple of very powerful thunderstorms still in play here in central Texas. So as we zoom out, that's really the extent of it at this hour. There is one storm that has moved out of North Texas, kind of moved down Highway 287 and down I-45 as well through Ellis County, impacting just again the very far northeastern edge of Navarro County right now. So really primarily an Ellis County storm at this moment. So those are the three storms that we have across central Texas and really across Texas right now. This is the activity. This is all the activity we have in Texas. And again, it's all because of that little frontal boundary we've been talking about. It's kicked up all these storms, and they're sustaining pretty well here as we head into the latter parts of the evening. Because again, we still have plenty of fuel out there. We're still seeing temperatures in the mid and upper 80s across central Texas. And as long as we have the heat, you have that storm potential. The heat and the humidity, those are the two factors that we absolutely need to keep storms going through the evening. In terms of what we expect, again, these storms could hold together for a little while longer. There's 8 o'clock, put it back in motion by 9. We're still seeing storms moving across the area. Again, location is going to be determined. These models they're really good at kind of giving us timing, kind of giving us what it could look like, but as far as exact locations, not always 100% perfect. Just understand isolated storms. That's what we've been seeing all day. That's what we'll continue to see throughout the night. Very isolated activity as we head through about 10, 11, maybe even as late as midnight out there as well. So we'll keep an eye on it though. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect until midnight, and so we'll, again, keep an eye on it throughout the extent of this watch as we head through the rest of the night. And of course, we'll have our 6+ live stream going as well as we continue on. For your Saturday, we'll continue to see the thunderstorm potential there. Again, maybe a little bit better coverage for your Saturday, so that is something we'll have to keep an eye on. And then for Sunday, I don't have a lot for Sunday. It's primarily going to stay west and north of central Texas. May get a couple of showers and storms sneaking in, but again, the chances very low there. But again, we do have that level 2 slight risk for your Saturday, not seeing that for your Sunday. Again, we'll keep storms in the forecast through the early parts of next week before we'll finally get a break here. We'll see a cold front come through that'll bring in some drier northern air that'll kick us back to basically where we're supposed to be for this time of the year, and we'll take the thunderstorm chances out as we head through the second half of next week. For now though, let's get you back to your streaming radar. All right, Central Texas, want to give you another update here. It is 8:30 on your Friday evening. Still seeing some very strong storms across Central Texas right now. And again, they're not really weakening at all. Again, we have plenty of fuel. There's lots of instability in the atmosphere. So the latest update now is I want to talk about Navarro County for just a second, because we just saw a tornado warning issued for parts of Navarro County. Now, this is going to be the eastern, kind of the eastern half of Navarro County, kind of right off of I-45, moving there towards Cairns, again off to the southeast right now. So this storm moving a little bit southeast, whereas the rest of the storms are moving a little more in that northeasterly direction. This one is what we call a right-moving supercell. So what happened was it was moving through the Dallas area and has taken a little bit of a right turn, moved through Ellis County, now into parts of Navarro County. They're heading towards the Trinity River. And so what has happened now is we are seeing that rotation tightening up, and you see a tornado warning now on this storm. Again, pretty tight rotation, excuse me, just on the east side of I-45 right here. And so that is where we'd be looking at if we were looking at a potential tornado within the storm. It's going to be on the east side of I-45 there in Navarro County, again, moving off to the southeast. So if we were to put a track on that, let's figure out how fast this storm is moving, and then we'll go ahead and track it. So we're looking at about 30 miles per hour. So if we take that area that it looks like where that rotation would be, and we move it off to the southeast at about 30, we'll get a decent idea of who's in the path of the storm and about how long it takes for it to arrive. So we're looking at Roan by about 8:45, Powell by 8:55, Cairns there by 9:03, Round Prairie 9:15, Trinidad by 9:18, and then it moves across the Trinity River towards Malakoff, Crossroads there by about 9:30, 9:35 or thereabouts for those two locations. Again, it would have to hold together long enough to make it that far. Again, we're talking about an hour from now, but again, fairly tight rotation being seen within this storm there just to the east of I-45 in Navarro County. That is the only storm in terms of what we're seeing right now that we're a little more worried about the rotation. The rest of the storms, yeah, they are rotating supercells, but we're not really seeing that tight rotation. Perhaps this storm here near Meridian, maybe a little bit of a hook trying to develop. Again, our radar is showing this a little bit more of a blob than I would like for it to be showing, but we could be potentially seeing some rotation in that storm. Let's take a look. Anyway, we did see, okay, so I'm not really seeing anything there. So primarily all the winds kind of moving in the same direction. So not seeing a lot of rotation within that storm. But did see reports on this storm near Meridian of 2-inch hail. And again, as we look inside the storm now northeast of Meridian, we're still seeing hail 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter in this storm as it moves up 174 towards Copperell there, and then eventually into Hill County there towards Osceola. So that's what we're seeing with that storm right now. Not really seeing any rotation, but again, the hail still very impressive. The hail even more impressive than that in the storm off to the south. Again, this is the storm moving into parts of Williamson County, parts of Travis County. Kind of has eyes there for the Georgetown, Round Rock area, so worth noting there. The good news is the radar returns not nearly as impressive as they were. Again, when you start talking about tennis ball sized hail, that's not going to be a very long-lived situation. So we've seen that come down pretty significantly here, probably an inch to 1.25 inches there. So quarter to $half sized hail now more likely inside the storm, not the tennis balls we were seeing before. 1.4, so about 1.5, so closer to ping pong ball sized hail being indicated by radar, so likely 1 inch to 1.25 inches in reality. But those are the three storms that we're dealing with right now. Again, that storm up in Navarro County showing some signs of rotation, and with that, a tornado warning there issued for the eastern half of Navarro County. This storm moving towards Highway 31. It is the area of rotation that we're looking at is past I-45, but will then now move off towards Highway 198, Highway 31 there as it continues off to the southeast. So if those two areas, you have any concerns with those areas, that is where this storm is heading. So again, make sure that you are aware of that particular situation. As we look inside it one more time, see if that rotation still looks as tight as it did before. Again, the hail core within the storm, 1 inch to 1.5 inches. And again, still right there, that same sort of general area east of I-45, that's where we'd be looking right there. Again, for any signs of rotation, we'd be looking there east of I-45 in Navarro County, there, northern Navarro County. And again, moving off to the southeast right now. I want to get a slightly different view here. What we're going to do is we're going to take a much larger velocity-based view. As soon as I can find the right tool on here. Here we go. All right, so we're going to, instead of using our scope tool like we always use, we're actually going to look at the whole area in terms of our velocity tool. We're going to remove this severe thunderstorm watch. Here we go. All right. So again, it's this area up in Navarro County that we're concerned with. I really don't like this view, but again, you can see that same area, again, where those greens and reds come together. That's what we look for. Again, this is in effect for about another 25 minutes. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Again, as it continues to move off to the southeast about 30 miles per hour. Switch back to our previous view. Okay, going to step off for 2 seconds. All right, Central Texas, still tracking these storms, still have that tornado warning for Navarro County. Had to go check and see what our TV situation looked like in case we wanted to jump on the TV to do a cut in there as well. But that tornado warning still in effect until about 9 o'clock. This storm still showing those signs of rotation. Let's take another look inside the storm to see if it is we're still seeing it. And again, it's going to be this area right here. Again, anytime you see those greens and reds coming together, it's not necessarily as cut and dry as I would necessarily like it to be, but again, if we're looking for areas of rotation, it's going to be right there, again, east of I-45, moving towards 31 there, moving towards Highway 31. So we did a check of its route a minute ago. Let's check it again. Again, Roan by about 840, 845. Cairns 902, Trinidad 917, and then it moves across the Trinity River, and then it'll move into parts of Anderson and Henderson County. So again, this storm showing signs of rotation on radar. Haven't seen anything confirmed yet, but again, those signs of rotation are there. We're continuing to watch the storm as it moves through parts of Navarro County. All right, so sorry, I had to kind of suit up a little bit there and get my what we call our IFB back in my ear here so I can communicate with the folks in the back of the TV station. So in case you didn't know, a little bit of TV magic, we have these little things in our ears, sort of like what you see from like the Secret Service agents that helps us communicate with people in other parts of the building without them actually having to come in here and talk to us face to face. But again, this is that area of rotation we've been talking about. This one is moving again towards the Trinity River, moving towards Highway 31, Highway 309. Again, it's moving at about 30 miles per hour, and it does show those tight signs of rotations. But again, this is the eastern part of Navarro County. This is east of I-45, northeast of Corsicana. This one will miss Corsicana off to the east here, and again, move off towards the Trinity River over the next hour or so. Again, once it gets to, say, Trinidad, once it gets to along the Trinity River, again, we're still talking half an hour from now, so whether or not this holds together is to be seen, but in case it does, those are the areas that are in this storm's path. And again, as we look at our situation, kind of just as a general look across Central Texas, what we're seeing is somewhat promising on the most recent scans. As you look down towards our storm in now Williamson County, Travis County, this one was dropping tennis ball sized hail at one point according to our radar indications. At this time, it does not look like that is still the case as it moves into Williamson County. So if you're in Georgetown or down towards Round Rock, this storm is still heading your way, but not nearly as impressive as it was before. Again, rotation there, broad, mid-level, nothing like what we're seeing up in Navarro County right now, but it's the hail core that's been kind of the story of the night with this storm. And again, you can see now probably inch to an inch and a quarter, not necessarily the tennis balls that it was before. At this point, we'd be back to talking about pocket change sized hail, in this case specifically quarters and half dollars, which are still very large and can still do damage when they fall out of the sky, but obviously not nearly the same realm as when you're talking about tennis ball sized hail. This storm basically moving off to the east. And one little trick I'll tell you is this: whenever you see the warning boxes about these, what we're going to do is we're going to spend a lot of time with these storms basically paused. They'll update in real time, but we're not going to show you the motion generally when we're talking about the threats, because we want to keep them static. We want to be able to kind of show you exactly what's happening right now. But whenever we show you these storms, if you look at the warning box that the National Weather Service draws, that's going to give you an idea of which direction the storm is traveling. So in the case of this storm, it's basically moving parallel with the county line there. So say from Gerald down towards Georgetown, you can see it is moving right along with the general path of Williamson County. So you can kind of follow the warning boxes to see what direction these storms are headed. The storm off to the north, again, we have not seen this warning extended into, at this point. We are seeing signs of weakening as the storm moves into Hill County. So if you're in Hill County, still dealing with, again, quarter to $half sized hail, so still fairly large there as it crosses over the Bosque River. So worth noting that there is still a hail core with this storm, but not nearly what we've seen at times previous when we saw some actual pictures of hail from near Meridian of about 2 inches in diameter. So here in about 1 minute, we're going to do a break-in on television as well over a commercial break. We're not going to interrupt Dateline, but again, we will do about a 2.5 minute update for the television audience, and we'll bring it right back here to the digital side. But hey, don't worry, if you're watching on digital, the digital is not going to go away. We're just going to add the TV audience. Sounds like we're about 30 out, maybe a little bit less at this point, maybe 20 out. There's 15. Well, good evening, Central Texas. Chief Meteorologist Matt Farrell here. Not going to cover up Dateline tonight, but I did want to use this commercial break as an opportunity to give you an update on what is going on with our storms right now. We do have 3 separate severe thunderstorm warnings and, in fact, 1 tornado warning for parts of Central Texas. Right now, the tornado warning is going to be for Navarro County, east of Corsicana. This storm has been showing some pretty tight signs of rotation. Now, this is east of I-45, moving towards the Trinity River, but if you or some property of yours is in the Karens area, that's where this storm is heading. And as we take a look inside the storm, there's the rotation, but there's also the hail with this storm. As we look at it, you can see the hail in this storm, again, near the Trinity River. We'll call it quarter to $half size in diameter right now. So fairly large hail, but again, the concern primarily is going to be with the rotation that we've been seeing inside this storm as we switch over to that. So if we're seeing rotation still with this storm, and it's not quite as tight as it was before, but it's still going to be in this general area right here. So again, just about 5 or 6 miles, or a little bit more than that, maybe east of I-45. And again, right between I-45 and the Trinity River, and again, moving southeast, so towards Karens. Karens, we're looking at about just around the top of the hour, 9 to 9:05 is when this area of potential rotation would be over the area of Karens. So if you're in that area, keep that in mind. Make sure that you are in your safe space at this time, as this storm is still showing those signs of rotation. That, of course, is one storm. We have the 2 other storms right now. This storm down in Williamson County, moving towards Georgetown, moving towards Round Rock, has a history of tennis ball sized hail. At this point, though, really just showing quarter to $half there as well, but again, moving towards Georgetown and Round Rock. And the last storm that we're seeing has lost a lot of its kind of charge over the last couple of hours, but this is the storm that started in Lampasas, has made it all the way up into now Hill County. And again, this is going to be northwestern Hill County. Again, winds probably 45 to 50 miles per hour in this storm, but the story has been the hail core. You can see right now up to about 1 inch in diameter there just to the west of Blum, right along the Bosque River there. But this storm, again, has a history of 2-inch hail. I've seen pictures of 2-inch hail from just outside of Meridian a little bit earlier. So we have a lot of storms going on, and I wanted to take this opportunity to give you an update on all of that activity, but also to let you know that we're not going to cover up Dateline tonight for what's happening. But if you want to keep up with these storms yourself, we are doing a live stream on our 6 Plus platform on KCENTV.com and on our KCEN mobile app, and you can follow us there live all night. Now, for the TV audience, going to send you back to Dateline, but again, that live stream keeps going until this event is over. For now, though, back to Dateline. All right, and so we're back on digital alone. And so we're still looking at these 3 storms. The one down in Williamson County still holding it together pretty well. And again, you see just a little bit of that rain potentially sneaking up into Bell County as well. So if you're in Salado, Gerald, those areas, could see a little bit of rain, but that's about it. You're not going to see the strongest part of the storm. That's going to stay well down south, kind of skirting right along the Williamson-Travis County line. So again, folks in Leander and again on towards Georgetown and Round Rock could be impacted by this storm here over the next several minutes. So as we look inside the storm, again, it's not nearly what we were seeing before when we were seeing tennis ball sized hail, but it's not going away either. We've actually seen some strengthening in the last few scans, right back up around 2 inches. Remember, 2 inches, that's going to be an egg. So your general egg that you would buy from the grocery store, that's what 2 inches looks like. So again, that's what we're seeing there just to the northwest of Leander. Now the thickest part of this hail core should travel just to the north of Leander, but again, 1 to 1.5 inch hail possible there in Leander and some of the northwestern Austin suburbs there. And again, that'll move on towards Georgetown and Round Rock as well. So in those areas, may not see the largest hail, but you will see likely some hail in those areas. Across the area, you can see those 3 separate hail cores that we've been talking about, the one in Navarro County, the one in Hill County, and again, the one down in Williamson County. Other than that, that's all the activity we really have out there. And again, that cap held pretty well tonight. And because of that, it did stifle a lot of activity from forming. But you saw with these 3 cells that we're dealing with right now, how quickly each one of them was able to really grow in the environment that we have right now. So a good thing that that cap held, otherwise we'd be talking about a lot more storm activity across central Texas right now. Again, this storm up in Navarro County continues to move down towards, again, Highway 31, Highway 309. And we're still tracking it, still has the potential for that rotation within this storm. And so right now, again, it's going to be basically coming right up down towards Richland Chambers Lake there over the next, say, 15-20 minutes here as it, again, continues to move off to the southeast. So next up on the list of areas that would impact would be Highway 31, again, just to the east of Corsicana, and then on towards 287 and Richland Chambers Lake. So we're continuing to watch this storm, again, because of that potential rotation that we're seeing within the core of it. And we're continuing to watch the other storms because of the hail that they are producing. For now, though, we will continue to let our radar run. And I will be back in just a minute to continue coverage of these storms. All right, still looking at these storms here, especially the one in Navarro County, still has the tornado warning on it. It does look like on some of our most recent scans, we're seeing a little bit of weakening, which obviously is good news. It's what we want to see, but we are still seeing areas where anywhere you see the green and red come together. I'm looking between Chatfield and Cairns. Those are the areas. So if you're in Cairns, excuse me, we said it before, we'll say it again, you need to make sure that you are in your storm safe area right now. Again, that is the lowest level of your house. That is away from any windows. That's obviously in the interior of your home. Again, the idea is just putting as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So again, an interior room, whether it's an interior bathroom, an interior pantry, closet, something again that's sturdy, has no windows, and keeps you away from any outdoor walls. That's where you're going to want to be. All right, so that's what we're looking at. And again, as this storm continues to track southeast at about 30 miles per hour, if you're in Cairns, we're looking at, again, about 9:05, 9:10. That's what we're looking at. So again, if you're in your safe place, just remain there until this storm passes, because again, it is still showing those signs of rotation. Again, it is not necessarily as tight as it was before, but it still looks fairly impressive on our velocity scans. And when we see that, it, again, is not an indication that there is absolutely a tornado currently happening, but it does mean that the radar is indicating that it is entirely possible. So again, about 9:05, 9:10 Cairns, and then about Goodloe, about 9:11 Round Prairie, 9:23. And again, this storm will then move towards the Trinity River as it gets down to the Leon County line. So again, that storm, tornado warned storm, in effect, the tornado warning is in effect for about another 3 minutes. We will see if they extend that out over the next several minutes, which is entirely likely as it's still holding together really well. Just heard from one of our 6 News employees that everybody at the air show in Temple has been moved into a hangar because of lightning. I can say there is not much in the way of rain happening right now, but I'm going to step in front of the camera. I want to show you likely why that has happened. And again, if you're watching us on 6 Plus on your phone from the air show and you're wondering why, if there's no rain or anything of that nature happening in the area, why everything's been moved indoors, it's because lightning can actually strike from miles away. So the closest arm of this storm is actually just across the Bell County line here, about 15 miles or so from Temple. And 15 miles is well within striking distance of lightning. So again, with storms even this far off to the south, you have to remain cautious if you're in Temple, if you're at the air show right now, because again, lightning can strike sometimes as much as 20 to 25 miles away from a parent storm. And especially when you start to see all this green that we're seeing here, this is likely the anvil top of this storm down here. So again, you can see lightning. It's not terribly common to see it necessarily coming from the anvil part of the storm, but it is entirely possible. So again, that's why those precautions are being taken right now in Temple. Not necessarily because there's a storm right over us, but because there's a storm close enough that lightning could be impacting the Temple Belton area right now. So that's what's happening there. I do want to take our attention back to Lake Victor, because now we're seeing another storm start to develop, another storm grow in intensity right around Lake Victor there in Burnett County, and this one moving off to the east-northeast as well. So again, more storms developing and moving off to the east. We could continue to see more activity behind that as well. So again, we're having to keep an eye on everything right now, including this storm right here moving through Williamson County, the new one now in Burnett County, and of course the tornado warned storm up in Navarro County. The good news for us is that this storm over in Hill County has now moved into Johnson County, so kind of out of the 6 News viewing area. So again, if you know folks up in Johnson County and then eventually into Tarrant County and Dallas County, definitely let them know the storm is on the way. We're not seeing the same sized hail we were seeing before, but this storm does have a history of tennis ball sized hail. Right now, as we take a look, again, very strong winds, probably about 45, 50 miles per hour there in that storm. Again, you can see possibly as large as 1.5 inches with the hail in this storm right now. So again, up to about ping pong ball sized hail. Has a history of 2+ inches, egg sized hail. Not seeing that at the moment, but the storm does have a history of producing that. The reason, why this storm has been able to hold together so well. Likely it's riding very close to that boundary, that cold front boundary we've been talking about all day. And the closer it is to that area, the more instability it's going to have and the more lift it's going to have to work with. So that's why we're seeing that. It does look like the tornado warning has been allowed to expire there for the storm in Navarro County. Like I said on those last couple of scans, the rotation wasn't looking quite as impressive. And so they did allow that to expire. Now just a severe thunderstorm warning, so still seeing large hail falling out of that storm as well. So again, a lot of activity out there right now. The largest hail that we've seen up to this point in that storm down in Williamson County, now moving past Leander. We now have a new storm near Lake Victor that we have to worry about. And then again, this storm up here is kind of moving out of the area, but this storm kind of still dropping very large hail right along the Trinity River as well. So a few storms here left still. And again, we'll continue to watch for new developments. And again, like this storm right here, we'll continue to watch to see if that continues to strengthen as it moves potentially towards Bell County. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. All right, Central Texas, wanted to give you another update here on this Friday night. Well, we've been kind of seeing storms around Bell County all night, and we finally have one that potentially is moving in. So if you're in Salado, we've had a couple of storms come very close here, maybe even receiving just a little bit of rain from this storm down in Williamson County, but that is really now just kind of isolated to Williamson County. But now this storm that formed near Lake Victor continues to slide east, so could see that potentially move through the Salado area as well, Jarrell for sure. And then we're seeing another storm developing back towards Lampasas that, again, all this is moving off to the east. So we're seeing a little bit more development right now. As we get later and later, we're going to start to take some of the severe threat away, but again, starting to see a little bit more of that development, which means a few more of us could see just a little bit of rain out there on this Friday night. So with that storm that is developing at the moment out in, again, parts of Burnett County, now moving into Bell County. Again, not severe right now, but could be moments here of heavy rainfall. See if there's any sort of small hail within the storm. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, at that point, we're not really seeing much in the way there. Maybe some very small pea-sized hail in the very, very heart of the storm, but really there's not a whole lot there. This mainly just rain, lightning as well, potentially within the storm. In fact, let's turn on our lightning tracker so we can see. And yeah, there's a few bolts coming out of those storms as well. And again, for the air show, heard a report that they moved a lot of people into the hangars there, and this is the reason why. Again, this storm, at one point, the furthest reaches of the storm were across the Bell County line, so only about 15 miles from Temple. So you can see why at the air show they would have moved everybody inside, because lightning can strike that far from a parent storm. So that is always worth mentioning when we start talking about some of these lightning storms. Have a little storm developing near Gatesville. Again, nothing much there. It's to the west of Gatesville, so between Evant and Gatesville. So again, right there, just a little bit of a rainstorm, the one lightning bolt there. This storm now near Lampasas developing quite a bit of lightning as well. So that's going to be the main threats with these newer storms that are coming up. It's just going to be rain and a little bit of lightning embedded within the storms as well. That's all we're seeing from, again, these most recent storms. But again, a lot of lightning possible here. So that is moving into Bell County. And again, if you're in Killeen on the very edge there, might get a little bit of rain, but I'm looking more at, say, Jarrell, Salado, those areas with this particular storm. It could start picking up to the north, and if it does so, we could be talking about the I-14 corridor, but for right now, it does appear to be moving off to the east here. So worth keeping an eye on if you're in Temple, Belton, and Killeen, but for right now, nothing imminent there with that storm. These storms back here near Lampasas could move up towards Coppers Cove and into Killeen as well. So if you're in the I-14 corridor, you could see some rain here over the next, say, half hour or so. So keep that in mind as these storms continue to move off to the east right now. We'll keep an eye on them, of course, but again, right now, nothing severe, just rain and a little bit of lightning. So we'll let this continue to run here for the next several minutes. All right, wanted to give you another update here as we do now have some new severe warnings to talk about. Those storms we've been tracking back since Lake Victor and Lampasas have now started to intensify. This storm moving through Youngsport. This one should move through Salado here pretty quickly. This one is just rain at this point, but this storm is starting to develop a much stronger core, and you can see this new severe thunderstorm warning has been extended into Bell County, includes Killeen there. The I-14 corridor includes Copper's Cove as well, and this is primarily going to be a hail threat. Let's take a look at the storm here as we do. And you can see here just to the southeast of Lampasas, we are seeing that hail core develop, likely quarter to $half sized hail within the core of this storm right now. And this is going to be right along the Lampasas and Burnett County line, 1.2, so yeah, $half sized hail possible with that storm as it moves off to the east-northeast. So again, severe thunderstorm warning now in effect for parts of Bell County. And this does include Killeen and Copper's Cove. This is primarily going to be for a hail threat, but also cannot rule out potentially some 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts as well. So potentially some strong winds within the storm, but definitely a hail core that we have to deal with here. Again, a quarter to $half sized hail. And this is moving towards Copper's Cove at the moment. The storm itself has been moving mainly east, but it's got just that little bit of a northerly component that could take it towards Copper's Cove and towards Killeen here over the next 45 minutes or so. So worth keeping an eye on if you're in those areas. And of course, we're coming up now on about 9:40, 9:45, so getting close to 6 News at 10, where of course we'll have all the latest for you. But for right now, keeping you updated on the storm as it moves into Bell County right now. So keeping an eye on that. Let's put a track on it. Again, moving at about 30 miles per hour. And moving mainly east, and again, the part we're going to be most concerned with is going to be where that hail core is. And again, over the next hour or so, I'd look for it to be Cove Christian School there by about 10:03, Killeen 10:24, Ira Cross Elementary there by about 10:26, Harker Heights 10:30, Nolanville by about 10:37. So this storm, again, has been intensifying over the last 15-20 minutes as it developed, again, not too long ago. Again, just shows you that we do still have that instability in the atmosphere right now. A lot of energy there to work with. So as these storms develop, we will continue to have that threat for potentially some severe weather for at least a little while longer. That storm right now is the only one across central Texas that has that severe thunderstorm warning. You can see the storm in Williamson County. They've gone ahead and canceled the severe thunderstorm warning on that one. So as it moves into Georgetown now, mainly just a rain and small hail event. The other thing that we're not talking enough about here, of course, is the lightning within these storms as well. As I turn our lightning tool back on, you can see a lot of lightning here, 10, 15 lightning bolts here just over the last couple of minutes with both of these storms. Again, the one here to the south, mainly just rain, that moving towards Salado. This storm back here towards Lampasas, that is the severe thunderstorm warning. That is moving towards Killeen, towards Copper's Cove. So again, hail core moving up 190 there. So that is something to definitely be watching there if you're in those areas. Copper's Cove, Killeen, Harker Heights. Again, not seeing any sort of tornadic rotation with this storm, but definitely very strong wind gusts and hail within the storm, potentially as large as $half. So again, keep an eye on that storm. And again, moving towards Killeen, moving towards Harker Heights here over the next 30 to 45 minutes. So we're going to let that go for a second. We'll be right back with another update. And then, of course, we'll have all the latest on 6 News at 10. All right, Central Texas is going to do one more quick update here, but this live stream is going to have to come to an end here pretty quick as we get ready for the 10 o'clock news. One more reminder, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for parts of Bell County. This does include Killeen. It includes most of the high I-14 corridor, and this is for a storm that is producing at least radar indicated very large hail here as we look in towards Highway 183. And again, as we kind of want to track the motion of the hail core itself without the rest of the storm, it is kind of taking a little bit of a jog to the southeast a little bit, but mainly that motion is off to the east right now, so towards Maxdale, and again, areas just to the east of this storm is where we'd be looking here. Again, 1 to 1 1/4 inch, so we're talking quarter to $half sized hail with this storm. So again, very large hail moving kind of along and just to the east of Highway 183 there in Burnett County, but moving towards the Bell County line. And then again, also seeing a little bit of a rainmaker in Bell County. This one non-severe at the moment, but this storm near Salado potentially bringing some rain to Salado right now. And the thing is, a lot of outdoor events across Central Texas out there today. And you can see we've had several severe thunderstorms moving across the area. We now have another storm up near Gatesville as well. This one moving just to the north of Gatesville, closer to Turnersville there. In fact, moving towards Turnersville off to the northeast right now. Again, just a rainmaker at this point. So we're keeping an eye on all these storms just in case they do turn severe. But again, we have the one severe thunderstorm warning for Bell County as this storm moves again to the east here. You see a very strong hail core there just right along Highway 183. So we're going to get ready for the 10 o'clock news. This live stream will come to an end, but we'll be back obviously here in about 8 minutes on the TV and on the stream with 6 News at 10. Again, thanks for joining us here on this Friday night.